on, everybody? Welcome back to In the Pit with Steve. My name is Steve, and we're back again with another concert review. This is my final concert of the summer and my last sort of big show that I plan on going to until Baby Metal, which I believe is towards the end of November. So I was very excited to get out to something, especially after the past month. I got back from seeing Slipknot in New Jersey and got very, very sick. And I was actually worried at one point, because I continued to be sick, that I was going to end up missing the show. But thankfully, I was much better and I was able to attend. This was the Freaks on Parade tour, co-headlined by Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie, with Ministry and, oddly enough, Filter opening. I was actually very surprised that Filter was on the bill. They're kind of like the what one thing doesn't fit with the other. At one point, I actually Googled, why is Filter touring with Rob Zombie? And I couldn't get an answer. I'm not really sure what the connection is. I don't know if they're friends or whatever it may be, because their music is just kind of, Filter's a fine band, nothing against them, but they just kind of stick out like a sore thumb a little bit on a bill like this. But I'm very happy to report that every band was great. We'll get into that. But this was a nice change of pace after traveling out of state for the past kind of two major concerts I went to. This was a hometown show here in Syracuse, New York, at I still call it the Lakeview Amphitheater. They have changed their name, I don't know how many times at this point. They are now officially called the Empower FCU Amphitheater at Lakeview. This has only been around for 9 years, and I believe has had 5 total names over the course of the 9 years that it has been open. It is the largest concert venue we have here in Syracuse, except for if you count the Dome, which, God, they changed that name now. I think it's the JMA Wireless Dome, where the college football team and college basketball team play. But concerts are kind of few and far between at that place. In terms of a regularly booked concert venue, our amphitheater is the largest venue in the area. It's actually a great place to see the concert. You're right on the water. Very nice. There was a good breeze last night. It was a great night for a concert. And I've seen some fantastic shows since they've opened the place. Country music kind of reigns supreme here in central New York. So, of course, we get a lot of country artists, but we've had quite a bit of variety over the years with shows at the amphitheater. I mean, I think over the course of the next week, we have Pitbull, Hootie and the Blowfish, and Post Malone coming. So, I mean, that alone is kind of a solid amount of variety. But I have seen Rob Zombie previously at this venue, Korn, Slipknot, Marilyn Manson. I've seen... boy, now I'm drawing a blank, but yeah, a lot of great. I've seen Blink-182 there, some really solid stuff. So I was happy to get out and happy to have a show that was close by, so I could go home at night and not have to, stay in a hotel and drive back a long distance the next day. So that was very nice. Getting to the venue was fine. Got there in plenty of time. Show kicked off at 6 p.m. with Filter, and Filter, best known for Hey Man, Nice Shot and Take a Picture. They played both of those. I believe at this point, Filter is mostly a solo project of the singer. I believe he just kind of has touring musicians with him. I'm not up to date on Filter in terms of what they've been up to. So I don't know, when the last time they had an album out. But every song that they played was enjoyable, with the exception of Take a Picture, because I think that song is just god awful. It was bad when it was on the radio as a current song, and it's still not great, though I did find myself singing along because, of course, everybody that was alive at that time knows every word to that song. Their performance of Hey Man, Nice Shot, which closed out their pretty short set. I think they played 6 or 7 songs, about a half hour, maybe a little bit more than half an hour, I think. Was, great version of that song. Guy's voice hasn't lost a step. He still sounds fantastic. Very minimal set for them, which makes sense because, you have Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie coming up that have a very involved touring setup in terms of their whole stagecraft and performance. Just some lights, fog machines. Actually, the fog machines were pretty funny. At one point, the fog machines went off so hard that the guitar player and the bass player just totally disappeared in a cloud of smoke, which was got a pretty good chuckle out of me. I also should say that I attended the show with a friend. He had actually never been, he's been to concerts before, but he had never been to a show that was like a show. very theatrical, the video screens and pyro and all the crazy stuff. He's never seen anything like this. A lot of the concerts he goes to are bands that are just up on stage, jeans and t-shirts, playing their songs, which is, of course, there's nothing wrong with that. But, sometimes you want something a little bit different. So it was cool seeing his reaction through the night. I think Alice Cooper thoroughly blew his mind, and Rob Zombie just, added on top of it. So it was a lot of fun going with him to see all this. But yeah, no complaints about Filter, not my favorite band by any stretch. Haven't listened to them outside of, I did not recognize any songs aside from Hey Man, Nice Shot and Take a Picture. There's one song that sounded maybe vaguely familiar, and I think that might have only been because, like a week ago when we were talking about, meeting up to go to the show, what time we wanted to leave, all that stuff. I think I put on Filter on Spotify and listened to a couple of songs real quick. So there's one that kind of sounded vaguely familiar, but like I said, singer sounded fantastic. Really, really solid stuff. Up next was Ministry, and I will admit I am not a Ministry fan. I remember when they came out. I remember them being a really big deal. Growing up and reading a lot of like metal music magazines when that was a thing, stuff like Hit Parader, Kerrang, Metal Hammer, stuff like that. I remember seeing pictures of Al Jorgensen and seeing pictures of Ministry, and I remember seeing the albums, in the store and stuff like that. But I just never really got into them. So about a month or so ago, when I was out driving, I had to drive a ways for work. I was like, let me just go to Spotify and put on Ministry and just listen to their stuff for a while. I recognized Jesus Built My Hot Rod, which was their closing song for the night. And I recognized New World Order. So I was like, okay, I've heard these songs before, but not the biggest fan. I never really liked the way their stuff sounded when it was recorded. And I was curious to see if this stuff was going to translate better live. And I was absolutely right. Those songs sounded so good live. They put on a really good show. Al Jorgensen, 65 years old. We kind of made the joke that we were sort of at the old folks' home. I'm not sure how old the gentleman in Filter is. I assume due to the longevity of the band, probably in his 50s. Rob Zombie's about to turn 60. Al Jorgensen, 65. Alice Cooper, I believe, is 76, 77 years old. But the thing I will say about all of these bands, way more energy than a lot of bands I have seen in my life where their members are under the age of 30. These guys were killing it all night. Al Jorgensen's a little, you can tell he maybe, slowed down a little bit over the course of time, but that's, to be expected. But yeah, they sounded great. It didn't turn me into a Ministry fan. I can't imagine I'm going to start listening to a ton of Ministry music now. But if they ever came back around live, I would 100% go and see them. I thought they had a very tight set. Pretty cool visuals. So the way the venue is they have these two big video screens on the side of the stage. Typically, it's really nice, professionally shot footage of what's happening on stage so that people, behind can see. But for Ministry, they had just put on like visuals because they didn't have any screens on the stage. So it was kind of cool to see some of that stuff going along the way. I really enjoyed how they sounded. I thought that they sounded super tight. Everything was really good. So a pleasant experience for me as somebody that wasn't, I didn't grow up a Ministry fan. They're not really in my rotation in terms of music that I listen to. But the first half of the set was older stuff. The first half of the set was newer stuff. Second half of the set was older stuff. He actually says at one point, the rest of the songs we're going to play are the old stuff that you guys kind of came here to see. I actually really enjoyed some of the newer stuff. They played a couple of songs off their most recent album. I haven't gotten a chance to go back and see when that album came out. I'm recording this the day after the show, but I didn't get home until after midnight and, didn't get to bed until 2 a.m. and then woke up and had stuff to do today. So just haven't had a chance to kind of do a little bit of research on things. So I was kind of curious, like, when was the last Ministry album? But I thought those songs sounded pretty good. And I'm actually kind of curious to go and maybe check out that most recent album. But yeah, again, just a pleasant surprise. Their stage setup, pretty minimal. They had the two video screens, utilizing part of the concert venue for those, matching visuals for each song. They had at one point a person in kind of like a robot costume kind of going up and dancing around on stage. They kind of faded away at one point, and then it was just, just the band on stage. Nothing really crazy going on. This is a venue. I've been to a fair amount of shows at the venue. I've actually never seen any type of pyro, anything to that degree. So I was actually really surprised that later on in the night we actually got some. The stage, for being our biggest concert venue, aside from that dome, the stage is actually kind of small. From, left to right width wise. And I remember the last time I saw Rob Zombie, it really felt like his stuff was just kind of claustrophobic in on everything. It looked like they really kind of had to pack everything in to fit it on stage. But later on, both Alice Cooper and Rob Zombie, utilize the stage to their full advantage. So Ministry finishes up. We had about half hour, 40 minutes maybe in between Ministry and Alice Cooper starting. With it being a local show, we were bound to run into people that we knew. So, caught up with some friends we haven't seen in a while, that kind of thing, and got promptly back in our seats to check out Alice Cooper. So my history with Alice Cooper is I am a really, really big Alice Cooper fan. I love the majority of his catalog. My personal favorite song of his is Poison, which he played, which made me a very happy boy. I was very excited to hear that live. I was almost losing my voice because you start to realize, oh my God, I know the words to like all of these Alice Cooper songs. So we wanted to get back in our seats, ready to go. And I was very excited to see him because I was supposed to see Alice Cooper multiple times in my life. Technically, I have seen him before. I saw 2 songs. And then we had a flash flood. It was an outdoor concert and the whole thing had to be evacuated. So I didn't get to see the rest of the set. Last year, he came about an hour and a half away from me and I was supposed to go. And when I was getting ready to buy my tickets, I had asked the job I had at the time, said, hey, I just want to make sure it's cool that I buy these tickets. I would have to leave work like a half hour early. I can come in a half hour early or, whatever you want me to do. And they said, actually that night we need you to stay late. So I wasn't able to go, but I'm actually kind of glad that didn't happen because that was the tour where Nita Strauss wasn't there. She was off still doing her stuff with Demi Lovato. So she was back in the band for this show. And obviously, a lot of focus has been put on Nita Strauss and Alice Cooper's band over the years because she is such a talented guitar player, but his entire band is so good. There's 3 guitar players, bassist, and a drummer. Everybody is just on point. I mean, they are so tight. Those songs sound perfect when they play them. His stage setup was super cool. They had these 2 kind of staircases on the side that would move around. He had some, not animatronics, but like big puppets that would come out from time to time. During Feed My Frankenstein, he had one. He played Man Behind the Mask, which was super cool. I didn't know he played that live. That's a song he wrote for one of the Friday the 13th movies. I am a massive Friday the 13th fan. So to see that song live was absolutely awesome. They had a guy come out in full Jason gear and he slit this woman's throat, and that was the first of multiple people that died that night. Alice Cooper stabbed multiple people. They murdered a bunch of balloons. At one point, there was all these balloons. Nita Strauss decided that she needed to poke them with her guitar and started popping them all over the place. Alice Cooper joined in and started poking them with his cane. At one point, he had a fencing sword. He had a spear at one point. He had a dagger. They did the whole Marie Antoinette guillotine thing where they chopped his head off, and he comes right back, and he's in a straitjacket. And it was absolutely awesome. But I mean, he played pretty much everything you want to hear. School's Out. It was actually really funny. I made the joke to my buddy. He's playing School's Out here in this part of New York. School started on Tuesday. So it was funny that on, the day after school starts, we're hearing School's Out. But man, he did such a good job with that song. He ended up turning it into The Wall at one point, which was awesome. Hearing, I've never seen Pink Floyd live, so to hear The Wall performed really, really well. They did a fantastic job with it, was pretty cool. Like I said, Feed My Frankenstein, 18, $1 Billion Baby, played Poison, just a really, really, really solid set list. Played Hey Stupid, just kind of the greatest hits of Alice Cooper, the stuff that you would really want to hear. Costume changes for Alice throughout the show. We got an extended guitar solo from Nita Strauss, which then turned into kind of a dueling guitar solo. There were multiple times during a song where they would trade off the solo halfway in between. So, one guitar player would start the solo and the other one would finish it. Just really, really neat. Just a lot of fun. I mean, it's one of those things where, like I said, sometimes you just want to go see some bands play. I've been to a lot of basement shows, garage shows, very small clubs that only can fit 100 people, just dudes on stage playing a song. But sometimes you just want the theatrics. You want to be in a crowd of 15,000 plus, hearing these songs that and seeing all this crazy stuff go on stage. And so to finally cross Alice Cooper off my list, he's in the top 10 of artists that I truly, truly love that I've never gotten a chance to see live. So to finally cross him off was just absolutely awesome. I hope I get to see him again. He certainly doesn't seem like he's slowing down. I mean, my God, that guy was running around all over the place. Just unbelievable energy. The backing vocals from the band were great. Nita Strauss has got a really solid voice. They did some fun stuff with her. Just really tremendous. I mean, if you have a passing interest in Alice Cooper and he comes to town, I highly, highly recommend that you go see him live, because man, it is worth every penny. And I should say, I think in the other concert reviews I've talked about price. This tour, I'm actually not sure how much the tickets were. I got these tickets during Live Nation's concert week, where they marked stuff down to $25. So it was actually just straight $25. There was no tax, no service fees. So for my ticket, my buddy's ticket was just $50 even. Very, very affordable. I'm not sure what the regular price was. I have to imagine for where we were sitting, my guess is probably 100 plus, judging by what the usual pricing is at that venue and some of the other concerts that are happening. Although Post Malone is kind of breaking it. That's happening next weekend as of the time I'm recording this. Right now, tickets are in the $1,000 range to go and see him. It's wild. Those are the most expensive concert tickets I've ever seen in my life. Just absolutely ridiculous. I think the absolute cheapest ticket you can get right now is if you go onto like a third party site like StubHub. I think you can get lawn seats for about $250. So just wild stuff. But yeah, even if these tickets were $100, $150, it would have been worth every penny, because it was just such an amazing show. I've been very spoiled this year. The Slipknot show that I went to last was unbelievable. I saw Justice earlier this year. Absolutely incredible. It's just been an amazing year for concerts. So Alice Cooper finishes his set, played a lot of songs. And again, we have a break until Rob Zombie. We just kind of hang out, stretch, kind of do our thing, wait for Rob Zombie to come on. I have seen Rob Zombie a handful of times. The first time I saw him, this made me feel old, was 22 years ago on the Demon Speeding tour in 2002. And unbelievable show at that point. I had never seen anything like that in my life. He had not the crazy video screen stuff that he has now at the time. Drummer was playing on like the top of a volcano. He had gotten to like a sword fight with a robot. There were women in go-go dancing women in cages and all this crazy shit. Just really nuts. And then the last time I saw him, he actually wasn't the headliner. So it was kind of a pared down show for him. He did have some of the robot stuff, but not to the degree that he had this night as the headliner. A lot of video screen stuff. This particular stage setup that he had on this tour is really, really cool. There's a big elevated platform for the band to be on. And the front of that is all video screens. There's a video screen at the top of the stage, video screens all down the sides, every which way you look. The drummer's on an elevated platform, so every so often he would go up, go down. They had a lot of stuff on casters, so they could just wheel stuff in, wheel stuff out. If you've seen Rob Zombie lately, he has that kind of big podium that he does some songs on that just says Zombie on the front. So that kind of gets wheeled in, wheeled out, depending on the song, all that kind of thing. Just really cool visuals throughout. Sometimes he's playing, if it was like a big song, he would play just like the music video that they did for the song. He did that for Dead City Radio. He did that for, I want to say Feel So Numb. I could be wrong. And then sometimes it was like for Supercharger, it was this like anime, old movie footage and stuff like that. He played the Blackula song, so they played like footage from Blackula on there. I have to kind of be picky and choosy with some of the footage I'm putting up on the screen. There was quite a bit of nudity during his stuff, so I just don't want YouTube to flag that. But I will say equal opportunity, both full frontal male nudity and female nudity. So obviously, you know, Rob Zombie wants to provide something for everybody out there. He played, you know, I'm a really big Rob Zombie fan. He is one of my all-time favorite artists. So I am at the point now where I have seen him, you know, X number of times, that there are songs that I personally would love to hear live that I just never have before when I've seen him. And I'm wondering if it's at the point now where maybe I just never will. Like I would love to hear Sick Bubblegum live. I've just never heard that as one of my favorite Rob Zombie songs. So it's just kind of stuff like that. But regardless of the fact that, like, yes, I have heard every one of these songs except for he played some stuff off the new album, which I haven't heard. He played like King Freak. It was the first time I've heard him. It's the first time I've seen him since the album came out. You know, I've heard the hits. I've heard the majority of the stuff that he's done. There were maybe 4 or 5 songs in his set list that I had never heard live before. So that was really cool to have. And so I really enjoyed that. He was great with his like banter in between songs. Towards the end of the night, he pulled a 7-year-old child up onto stage and was picking him up and down and hanging out with him and stuff like that. And they couldn't find the kid's mom. The kid's mom was kind of like lost in the crowd somewhere there. So they were trying to figure out like where the mom was. They were like trying to get this kid off the stage and get safe and reunited. And so apparently Sherry Moon was off to the side of the stage, just like hanging on to this kid until they finally got the mom over there to get him. And Rob Zombie like kind of cracks jokes. He's like, I didn't really think this through. So that was kind of fun. Also, one of the like random things I've never seen him do before was at the end of the show, he came out in our local hockey team's jersey and took that off to reveal the local basketball team's jersey. And I was just like, it's very bizarre in my mind to see Rob Zombie wearing like sports outfits. Like it's just not a thing that I think of when I think of Rob Zombie. But yeah, I mean, the band sounded super tight. Everybody was great. You know, the songs sound fantastic. There were a couple, this is very unfortunate. You know, there were a couple missteps, unfortunately, with some of the songs. The guitar player screwed up the riff for one of the songs. Hey, shit happens. You know, you can't fault them. You've played that song a million times in your life. It's bound to happen. You know, I don't think anybody cares, and nor should they, because people make mistakes, right? But it was just like, it was one of those things where it's like, man, this was so close to being flawless. And then that, but like I said, ultimately, who really cares? It was just kind of like one of those things where it's like, man, I bet that guy kind of felt bad about that one, because it's, you know, how many times have you played that song? And then in front of all these people, you know, you mess up. Anybody that's played music live before, you have screwed up live, and it's a horrible feeling, but you know, the show must go on, and you get past it. Yeah, I can't say enough positive stuff about Rob Zombie's show. He had some pyro, he had some sparks coming down and stuff like that. The video work was super cool. You know, and just like Alice Cooper, you know, if you have a passing interest in Rob Zombie, see him if he comes to town, because it is a show. You get your money's worth. It is a full visual and audio experience. It is sensory overload. It is just a lot. And so it was really cool on the walk out of the venue. You know, I turned to my buddy and I was like, man, it's a little bit different than some of the stuff you've seen. He's like, he was very, very happy. And I told him, man, if he comes back to town, you got to come. And he's like, oh yeah, if they come back to town, I'm definitely going. So yeah, just a really, really great time. So I don't really have much more to say. I think I pretty much got my thoughts across. I mean, it was a positive experience, you know, no negatives to be heard of at all. Every band from the opener to the headliner played great. You know, songs you've recognized, so it's always kind of nice. You know, just an amazing show from top to bottom. You know, I was thoroughly entertained. And I highly recommend, you know, maybe I think the tour kind of just started. So if maybe you were on the fence and you're seeing this and he's coming to your town, or the tour's coming to your town, buy a ticket, go see it, because it's a really good time. Oh, I guess the one last thing I would say that was kind of a negative. So I'm at the point now where I don't really buy merch, when I go to a show, mostly because I'm a big guy. They don't usually have my size. Sometimes they do, and that's great, you know, but I also don't really wear t-shirts. I don't really wear band t-shirts ever, really. And so if I truly want something, I'll just go onto the artist website and order it directly from them. But while my buddy was getting food, I said, hey, I'm going to go over the merchandise tent, because there was no line, and I just kind of want to see what they have. He said, okay, no problem. So 2 things to note. One, a shitload of merch. I mean, my God, there was a lot of merchandise. This is definitely the most variety I have ever seen at a concert. Now, I will say it was only from what I can see. I didn't get super deep in. Maybe they had other stuff to buy. I only saw hats and t-shirts and hoodies. I've definitely been to shows where they have, you can buy a copy of the album, or you can buy a poster, a whole bunch of crazy shit. I actually have still framed in my house. I have, from the first time I saw Rob Zombie, I have the Demon Speeding Tour 2002 tour poster autographed by Rob Zombie. It actually used to glow in the dark, but it's so old now it lost the ability to glow in the dark. T-shirts were $50. I mean, straight up Macklemore, $50 for a t-shirt. That is the most expensive t-shirt I have ever seen at a concert. I mean, unless I am forgetting something, which I don't think I am, the most I have ever seen in a concert. And I've been going to shows long enough that I remember when it was 25 and then it went to 30 and then it's been 40 for a long time. The last handful of large concerts I've been to over the past 7-8 years have all been in that $40 range. But now just straight up $50 for a t-shirt. Hoodies, I want to say were either 75 or 85. I want to say they were 85. I could be wrong. Could have been 75, but I'm pretty sure it was 85. Didn't see a price on the hats. I have to imagine probably $40 was the price for a hat. Yeah, just crazy, just absolutely crazy. But hey, they made bank because I saw a lot of people at that show. There were thousands and thousands and thousands of people at the show that were wearing that tour t-shirt. And I'm sure they bought it when they, were walking by the merch booth. So they definitely did okay merch wise. But yeah, a little sad, I guess, to see it be that expensive. So yeah, that's going to wrap things up. We'll have more concert reviews as I get out and about to see stuff. But that's going to do it for me. Thanks again for getting in the pit and hanging out. And we'll see you again real soon.